cop who hunted ghosts, the ghost who was the cop. California, 1976. The phone rings in a quiet suburb. A voice on the other end, breathing. Then a click. That voice would haunt the state for 12 years. 50 rapes, 13 murders, 120 burglaries. He walked through bedroom windows like he owned them, because in a way, he did. 50 rapes, 13 murders, 120 burglaries. He walked through bedroom windows like he owned them. They called him the East Area Rapist, then the original Night Stalker. Then, silence. For 3 decades, nothing. The trail went cold as a morgue slab. But the DNA never forgot. He was a cop, a Navy man, a grandfather who grilled steaks on Sundays. He hunted couples in their sleep. He stacked dishes on their backs while he raped the wife, so he'd hear if the husband moved. The whole state was looking for a monster. Turns out, the monster was looking back, from behind a badge. This is the story of how a genealogy website cracked the coldest case in American history. How a killer who thought he'd won finally lost. His name was Joseph James DeAngelo, and the night was about to end. Act 1. The stain. The first scream. The first body. The pattern nobody saw. Rancho Cordova, June 1976. A teenage girl wakes up to a flashlight in her eyes. A man in a ski mask, gloves, a knife at her throat. He whispers through clenched teeth, the voice strangled, hateful, like he's chewing on the words before he spits them out. Make one move, and you'll be silent forever. He ties her up. He rapes her. He ransacks the house for trinkets, earrings, coins, a single cufflink, things nobody would miss, things he could touch later, in the dark, alone. Then he walks out the back door, like a mailman finishing his route. The cops call it a one-off, a sicko, a bad night in a good neighborhood. 3 weeks later, it happens again. Same MO, same whisper, same trinkets gone. Then again, and again, and again. By summer's end, Sacramento County has a problem. By winter, it has a crisis. The papers christen him the East Area Rapist, EAR for short. 3 letters that mean every woman in the suburbs sleeps with the lights on. He's methodical, surgical. He stalks the houses for weeks. He cuts phone lines before he enters. He unscrews light bulbs in hallways. He leaves shoelaces pre-cut on the lawn so he can bind them faster. He stalks the houses for weeks. He cuts phone lines before he enters. He unscrews light bulbs in hallways. He leaves shoelaces pre-cut on the lawn. And then he starts taking the husbands. He doesn't just want the women. He wants the men to watch. He ties them face down. He stacks plates on their backs. Dinner plates, saucers, a ceramic tower of humiliation. If I hear them rattle, he whispers, I'll kill everyone in this house. The husband lies there for hours, listening, counting plates, counting screams. 1 couple, 2 couples, 10, 40. By 1979, he's hit 50 homes. 50. The task force has nothing. No prints, no witnesses who saw a face. Just a ski mask and a voice that sounds like Satan with laryngitis. Then he disappears from Sacramento. Just gone. The cops exhale. They think he's dead, or jailed, or moved on. He moved on all right. South. 600 miles south. To Goleta, to Ventura, to Dana Point. And down there, the rapes turn into something worse. Down there, he starts bringing a gun. Act 2. The Shadows. 3 task forces, 40 years, 0 answers. Santa Barbara County, December 1979. A young couple in their own bed, Robert Offerman, Deborah Manning. He's a doctor, she's a psychologist. They're in love. They're asleep. They never wake up the same way they went down. He shoots them both, point blank. Then he eats a turkey leg from their fridge, standing over the bodies. The cops in Santa Barbara don't know about the EAR up north. Different jurisdiction, different paperwork, different world. So they file it. A double homicide, probably drugs, probably personal, probably anything but what it actually is. 3 months later, Lyman and Charlene Smith, bludgeoned to death with a fireplace log, their wrists tied with drapery cord, a sailor's knot called the diamond hitch. Distinctive, memorable, the kind of knot a Navy man would learn. Nobody connects it, because in 1980, cops don't talk across county lines. They guard their cases like dogs guard bones. The body count climbs. Patrice and Keith Harrington, Manuela Vithun, Sherry Domingo and Greg Sanchez, Janelle Cruz, 18 years old, bludgeoned in her parents' home while they vacationed in Mexico. Patrice and Keith Harrington, Manuela Vithun, Sherry Domingo and Greg Sanchez, Janelle Cruz, 18 years old. 10 bodies across 3 counties, and nobody sees the pattern. Until a young investigator named Paul Holes pulls a case file in 1994. He's looking at the Sacramento EAR cases. Then he reads about Goleta. Same knots, same shoelace bindings, same pre-cut cords. Same damn killer. Holes runs DNA. Sacramento samples versus Ventura samples. They match. They match. They match. 1 man, 50 rapes, 10 murders, maybe more. The East Area rapist and the original Night Stalker are the same ghost. The press renames him the Golden State Killer, GSK. Sounds like a sports team. Feels like a curse. But knowing it's 1 man doesn't help. They have his DNA. They don't have his name. They run it through every database, CODIS, state systems, federal. Nothing. Not even a parking ticket match. He's a phantom with 23 chromosomes and no face. The years grind on. Holes retires, almost. The case obsesses him. He drives to old crime scenes on his lunch break. He stands in the dark in Goleta. He whispers to a man who isn't there. A writer named Michelle McNamara picks up the trail. She names him the Golden State Killer in print. She writes through the night. She dies in her sleep before she finishes the book. Pills and an undiagnosed heart condition. He'd killed her too, from a distance, without ever knowing her name. But Holes had 1 card left to play. A card the killer never saw coming. A card called GED Match. Act 3. The Deviant. The grandfather with the rage in the garage. Citrus Heights, 2018. A yellow house on Canyon Oak Drive. The lawn is trimmed. The hedges are neat. A pickup truck in the driveway. American flag on the porch. A grandfather lives here, 72 years old, walks with a slight stoop, buys ice cream for the neighborhood kids. Joseph James DeAngelo. Retired mechanic, former cop, former Navy man, Vietnam veteran, father of 3 daughters, grandfather, member of the community, and the most prolific serial predator in California history. How does a man like that exist? How does he sit through PTA meetings and grocery runs and Sunday barbecues with that wiring under his skin? The neighbors had clues. They just didn't know they were clues. DeAngelo screamed a lot in his garage, alone. Long, howling rages over nothing. A leaky faucet, a misplaced wrench. The neighbors heard him through the walls, cursing at God, at his ex-wife, at the air itself. One neighbor reported him swearing for 40 minutes at a barbecue grill that wouldn't light. He fired guns into his own backyard. He blasted heavy metal at 2 a.m. He stalked through the neighborhood at night with a flashlight, checking fences. Always checking fences. And he had a freezer, a big one, in the garage, padlocked. Back in '79, he'd been a cop in Auburn, California, until they caught him shoplifting a hammer and a can of dog repellent from a drugstore. He got fired. He blamed everyone but himself. He carried that grudge like a tumor. The dog repellent, the hammer, the tools of a man planning to enter houses where dogs lived. The cops fired him and never connected the dots. In the '70s, his fiancée Bonnie broke off their engagement. He never forgave her. Witnesses said he screamed her name during the rapes. "I hate you, Bonnie. I hate you, Bonnie." He was raping strangers and pretending they were her. Every time DeAngelo whispered through that ski mask, he wasn't talking to his victims. He was talking to a woman who'd left him a decade earlier, and the strangers in their beds were just stand-ins for a grudge he refused to bury. The deeper investigators dug, the worse it got. He'd been a burglary cop in Exeter while the Visalia ransacker was active there, a serial burglar believed to be DeAngelo's earliest incarnation. He was investigating his own crimes. He was the call coming from inside the house. Literally. He kept souvenirs, earrings, coins, a pair of cufflinks. For 40 years he carried them. He looked at them when his wife was at work. He held them in the dark. 3 daughters grew up under his roof. They told investigators they never knew. They believed them. So did the neighbors. So did his ex-wife. Because monsters don't look like monsters. They look like grandfathers in cardigans buying vanilla ice cream. But the DNA on file in a Sacramento evidence locker didn't care about cardigans. It just needed one match, one cousin, one second cousin twice removed who spit in a test tube for fun. And in 2018, somebody did. Act 4. The Trap. A spit on a car door. A SWAT team at sunset. April 2018. Paul Holes is days from retirement. He's got one shot left. A genetic genealogist named Barbara Ray Venter. A public database called GED Match. People upload their DNA to find long-lost cousins, to build family trees, to find ancestors who came over on the Mayflower. Holes uploads the Golden State Killer's DNA, not to find the killer, to find his relatives. The system spits out matches. Distant cousins, third, fourth. Holes and Ray Venter build a family tree. Backwards, upwards, outwards. 25 branches, 1,000 names. They narrow it down by age, by geography, by military service, by the right window of time. One name keeps rising. Joseph James DeAngelo, 72, Citrus Heights, former cop. Right age, right place, right everything. They surveil him. They watch the yellow house for days. They wait for him to throw something out. Anything. A Kleenex, a coffee cup. DeAngelo opens his car door, touches the handle, walks back inside. The cops swab the handle, rush it to the lab. The match comes back. Bingo. 1 in a quadrillion. The Golden State Killer is a 72-year-old grandfather in a yellow house with a padlocked freezer. But they need more. They wait for him to throw out a tissue, a piece of garbage. He obliges. He tosses something in the trash. They grab it. They test it. Same match. Same man. April 24th, 2018, 6 p.m. DeAngelo steps out of his house to work on his motorcycle in the garage. The street goes quiet. Then it explodes. SWAT, tactical vests, long guns. They surround the yellow house. They cuff him in his own driveway. The grandfather, the cop, the ghost. He doesn't resist. He doesn't even speak. He just goes limp, like a marionette with the strings cut. In the interrogation room, he plays old, confused, frail. He pretends to fall asleep. He mumbles about diapers. He says nothing useful. But then, alone in his cell, he talks. To himself, to no one. The cameras catch it. I didn't have the strength to push him out. He made me. He went with me. It was, like in my head, he's a part of me. I didn't want to do those things. I pushed Jerry out and had a happy life. I did all those things. I destroyed all their lives. So now, I've got to pay the price. Jerry. He called the killer Jerry. Like an imaginary friend with a body count of 13. The mask was off. The voice that had whispered through 50 bedroom windows was a mumbling old man crying for a man named Jerry who never existed. The whole state exhaled and then started screaming. Because now, the survivors had to speak, and the families of the dead had to listen. Act 5. The Void. 40 years of waiting. 10 minutes of justice. Sacramento, August 2020. A courtroom in a community college gymnasium. COVID era. Masks on every face except his. Joseph DeAngelo sits in a wheelchair, hunched, vacant, or pretending to be. Nobody can tell anymore. Nobody cares. The victims line up, one by one, day after day. 10 days of statements, decades of pain compressed into 10 days. A woman who'd been raped at 15. She's 60 now. She tells him what he stole. She tells him her father killed himself 2 years after the attack. Couldn't live with what he heard from the next room while plates rattled on his back. A husband who watched. A wife who survived. A daughter whose mother was bludgeoned in her bed. The names of the dead read aloud. Claude Snelling, Katie and Brian Maggiore, Robert Offerman, Deborah Manning, Lyman Smith, Charlene Smith, Keith and Patrice Harrington, Manuela Whithune, Sherry Domingo, Greg Sanchez, Janelle Cruz, Claude Snelling, Katie and Brian Maggiore, Robert Offerman, Deborah Manning, Lyman Smith, Charlene Smith, Keith and Patrice Harrington, Manuela Whithune, Sherry Domingo, Greg Sanchez, Janelle Cruz. Janelle was 18. She wanted to be a model. He took her in her parents' bedroom while they were in Mexico. Her sister speaks. Her voice breaks. DeAngelo doesn't look up. He pleads guilty to 13 counts of murder, plus dozens of uncharged rapes. Uncharged only because the statute of limitations ran out before the DNA caught up. That's the obscenity inside the obscenity. 50 women raped. And the law said, too late, too long ago. Sorry. The DNA was there. The man was there. The victims were there. And the calendar said the state had run out the clock. He got life. 11 consecutive life sentences. No parole. No death penalty. California traded that off the table to get the guilty plea, to spare the survivors a decade of appeals. He'll die in a cell in Corcoran. Old. Forgotten. Probably soon. But the void he left? That doesn't close. Those husbands who listened to plates. Those wives who survived. Those children who found their parents. They carry it forever. Paul Holes retired. Michelle McNamara never got to see the ending she chased to her death. Her husband finished her book. It hit #1. She wasn't there to sign it. The cops in Auburn fired him for stealing a hammer in 1979. If they'd looked harder, if anyone had looked harder, how many would have lived? We'll never know. That's the worst part. We'll never know. Epilogue. The mask comes off. The damage stays on. Joseph DeAngelo is in a cell tonight. 80 years old, drooling, diapered. The man who terrorized California is a paper bag of bones now. The DNA caught him. Not the cops, not the task forces, not the profilers. A cousin in another state spit in a tube to find out if she was part Irish. That's the cynical truth of the Golden State Killer. He didn't lose. He aged out. He got tired. He got sloppy. He stopped hunting in the 80s because the rage finally tired him out. Or because he was simply done. He lived a normal life for 40 years. Grilled steaks, walked the dog, voted, paid taxes, hugged grandchildren. And every night when he closed his eyes, Jerry was still in there, smiling. Evil doesn't always wear a ski mask. Sometimes it wears a cardigan. Sometimes it lives next door. Sometimes it badges in for the night shift and takes home a paycheck and a grudge. The night that started in 1976 finally ended in a Sacramento driveway in 2018. 42 years. But for the people he hurt, the night never ends. It just keeps going, plate by plate, in the dark.